The Audi Q5, the brand's first mid-sized SUV, and it was a resounding success. In fact, this older generation one was the world's best-selling premium mid-size SUV for some 6 years running. So, what's so special about it then? Let's have a ganders and see what's what. My name's Tom, and you are watching Paragon Cars. Let's go! Now, the engine in this thing already makes this car pretty cool in my opinion, as it's effectively identical to the one out of the VW Golf GTI. The only difference is it's mounted to a Tiptronic torque converter gearbox instead of the snappy dual-clutch DSG. What it also has though is a proper quattro system, e.g. the Torsen differential. That means, permanent all-wheel drive and all that. Very nice. Power-wise, it's running 230 horsepower and 350 Nm of torque, though of course, being the infamous EA888 GTI engine means you can quite happily remap this thing up to 300 horsepower if you so wish. Anyway, let's see how a stock one does on the 30 to 70 sprint. What you're looking at then is a time of 6.23 seconds, which when you remember this is in fact a near 1.8 tonne SUV, is pretty damn impressive. That's similar to SUVs with a much larger 3 litre engine, and not far off of some smaller hot hatches. Nice one, Audi. What's also nice is the interior. Yes, it is starting to look its age, but this era of Audis were just built like absolute tanks. Everything still feels solid, and you know what? It may not have Apple CarPlay or the latest 360 camera, but it still has Bluetooth audio and physical controls for everything I actually need, and that is good enough for me. The rear comes with what I'd call borderline just enough room. With the driver's seat in a very laid-back position, I can only just about get comfy back here. Of course, the driver could move forward, but then you're compromising comfort, which you shouldn't really be doing in your luxury SUV now, should you? Thankfully, the rest is pretty decent. You get a 12-volt socket and an armrest that only comes with cup holders if you option them. Yeah, Audi has clearly always been stingy with its standard equipment. Anyway, the boot is great in the Audi Q5. Plenty of room, nice square shape, another 12-volt socket, and when you fold the seats down, they don't get stuck. Well, sort of. You have to give them a good whack to get them into place, but hey, at least they don't get stuck on the front seats. Anyway, time for some driving, I think. Oh, this brings back memories. And that is because the Audi Q5, especially this iteration of it, was the first car I ever got to drive. Admittedly, it was not my car, it was my parents' car back in the day. But yes, it was a wonderful first driving experience, especially when I got out of the learner cars, which was, I think it was a Peugeot 206 or something. Quite the step up, eh? But yeah, driving this thing around town, going over bumps, the one thing you notice is it's actually stiffer sprung than you might expect, being an S-Line car, but it's still very comfortable. Being an Audi, it's just kind of perfectly judged. They just seem to never get suspension wrong. Steering is nice and light, although feel is pretty horrendous. It's just got that older Audi feel to it where there's weight, but you have no real inclination of what the front wheels are doing. One thing that is good though already is this engine and gearbox combo. The mighty EA888 2-litre turbo. An absolutely wonderful unit, combined with the Tiptronic 8-speed. Oh yes, it is a buttery smooth driving experience. And yeah, certainly better actually than the S-Tronic gearbox that was in these cars at the time as well. The one that I drove back in the day was a 2-litre diesel with 163 horsepower, which was unbelievably slow. And that had the dual-clutch S-Tronic gearbox, which was fast when you put it in sports mode. But getting off the lights in that thing, it just felt like it was going through clutch packs like a junior driver with a manual car. It was pretty awful. But this is just lovely. Buttery smooth. And so quiet as well. So quiet. I forgot how comfortable these cars were. Seating position is just bang on. I can get just about low enough for an SUV, and my arms can touch the armrests. You know, one's adjustable obviously, which is nice, but the one down here I can touch as well, and then if I want to rest my arm up here I can. It's just a wonderful thing. Then in terms of parking this old boy, it's fairly easy. You've got nice big wing mirrors, and yeah, nothing really to complain about. Getting into a space in one go is a pretty easy feat. You've got parking sensors front and rear. Do you need a reverse camera? I would say maybe, just because you are very slightly higher up. Sometimes if there's a bollard behind you, you might not notice it. Anyway, in terms of getting out of this thing, very easy. This old Audi Q5 beeps at you to tell you to turn it off. But yeah, I find it's about the right size for London actually. It kind of makes sense. Then coming out of junctions without start-stop on, give it half throttle, and oh yes, this thing takes off. Proper Torsen Quattro differential doing its thing. And obviously 350 Newton meters of torque coming in at just 1500 RPM. Unlike the Golf R engine where you're kind of waiting for torque, the Golf GTI engine gives you all the torque very low down, which basically means you've just got power all over the rev band, which actually makes a lot more sense if you're driving this thing kind of at half throttle everywhere, which you will be. Right, in terms of MPG, you are supposed to get 38 miles per gallon on the combined cycle. So we're going to take this thing round a roundabout, have a little handling test, and then we're going to get on the motorway. So we get a combined cycle figure. So yeah, let's go do that now and see how this handles and see if we can manage 38 miles per gallon. Okay, there are no real drive modes in this, but what there is a physical button for traction control. Wow. Wonderful stuff. Right, let's get the gearbox in S. This will downshift a couple of gears, make the gear changes sharper, and we'll increase our throttle response, which is what we want. Not going to put it in manual just yet. See what the gearbox does. Anyway, coming around a roundabout, tuck the front in, get your foot down, and gearbox is a bit slow to respond. But once you're going, performance is of course strong. Very strong actually. That's the thing with the EA 888 2-litre turbo. Puts out a lot more power than you're expecting, and just even the torque low down, look at that, that's half throttle, just picks up wonderfully. Right, let's go into regular drive now and do some cruising. Alright, coming onto the motorway is where this engine does shine quite well. If I just give it, well, just give it full throttle actually. Downshifts like 2 gears, and look at that, 3rd gear all the way up to 70, and you're done. Cracking stuff. And then the next thing you notice is how good the visibility is. You've got these nice big wing mirrors, you can see in your blind spot with absolute ease. Of course, being an Audi, it's a fairly boxy-ish shape, so yeah, it's just easy to see out of. Then we get into 8th gear, under 2,000 revs at 70 miles an hour. Whack your cruise control on, and job done. This thing is so quiet inside on the motorway. Proper luxury car. I forgot how good these were. I think because it was Audi's like first proper like mid-range SUV. When this came out, I think it was it 2008? Like late 2008, early 2009 is when the first one of these came to the UK. And the build quality is just astounding. Like, you got acoustic glass, the seats are so comfortable, you've got, you know, an adjustable base, you got a little thigh support as well that comes out. It's just such an easy car to drive. So comfortable, so quiet, and just easy. A lot easier than that. That guy is really uncomfortable by the looks of it. Properly racing. You know, the other thing I really like as well is this aluminium trim. It just feels so high quality. I know you can get it in newer Audis, but this particular one, this kind of brushed effect, it just feels thicker and higher quality. definitely cheaped out on their newer cars. Anyway, let's get ourselves onto the motorway and we can see if we manage 38 miles per gallon. So a bit of traffic at the end there, but not too bad. We had a fairly good run, all things considered, and we have managed 32.1 miles per gallon, which isn't quite 38, is it? Now on the extra urban cycle, Audi do quote this car as doing over 40 miles per gallon, and personally I don't really see you doing that unless you're going about 56 miles an hour for a good chunk of time. Realistically, sitting at 70, you're going to be getting from like 32 to 35 mpg, which I think for the size of the car, and the engine's always going to be working, you're always going to be using the turbo to keep this thing going because of its weight, I think that's a pretty decent figure, really. It's not too bad. Certainly wouldn't break the bank. But if you do want better fuel economy, the diesel is definitely the better option. However, the advantage of this car is that when you put your foot down, it goes, and it goes well. Talking about going well, shall we see how it goes on a B road? Yeah, let's. Right, traction off. Let's go into S mode with the gearbox. I'm going to leave it in S first before I go into manual, just to see how it reacts. Let's see if this Audi Q5 is at all dynamic. Steering, still dead. Not a lot of feel. And do you know what? If you come off the throttle, it kind of gives you a bit of oversteer, which is nice. A lot of understeer though on throttle, which is unsurprising. But look at that, performance is undeniably very strong. Suspension as well keeps you very flat through the corners. I remember this was like their first attempt at a mid-size SUV. Brakes, 100-yard marker. Yeah, the brakes are just awesome. Feel is really nice as well. So the initial bite isn't really stiff, so for everyday driving it's not jerky. But once you get into the pedal, like the meat of the pedal, it's very strong, feels super reassuring. Right, let's actually do a little sound check, see if there's any GTI noise coming through the exhaust. I'll plant my foot. Yeah, a little bit. Coming around here, a little bit of understeer. Yeah, you can't go quite as fast as a GTI through there. But again, the damping is really good actually. Keeps the body nice and flat, and yeah, just not a lot of body roll. In terms of feel though, you can't really feel too much of what's going on with the front end. There is a bit of guesswork, but it's not terrible. Alright, let's go for manual now. And see what we can do around here. But going around corners like this, so you plant your foot now, and you can kind of get the quattro system to do a little bit. It still understeers though. Look at that clapped out Hyundai. He's probably got his foot flat to the floor right now. Sorry to all the Hyundai fans. See, the thing is, the steering, like, it kind of does what you tell it to, but there are times where it kind of doesn't quite do the same thing. It's quite odd. Like if you hit a little divot in the road or like a camber, the car just kind of wanders around. Yeah, like there, it kind of started to understeer without giving me any feedback of it actually understeering. But Yeah, that's where you feel the Quattro system working, is on the faster stuff. Lovely. I wonder though, can you get it a little bit sideways? We'll give it a bash. see what happens. It's the thing though, you have to drive it like a little bit of a hooligan to do that. Might have to go around twice. Yes, we're going to have to. So if I wait for this van driver to go past now. A lot of traffic today. Come off the throttle. Yeah, not really. It just kind of straightens itself out. But the thing is, it's a family SUV, right? So you don't really necessarily want it to be dancing all over the place. What you do want it to do though is kind of just feel satisfying to drive, and for that it is actually pretty decent. All the control weights are pretty nice. It's, you know, the steering gets the job done, and it's one of those cars that you can get a hustle on and it feels quite satisfying. You never feel cheeky, but you know, you kind of feel like it's kind of like a Q car. It's a bit like, that's nice. Right, can this slightly older SUV still hold its own on a pretty tight and very bumpy British B road? Let's go take it to one now and see how she does. Okay, still in manual, still traction off. Let's see what shapes we can cut with this thing. Oh yeah, very nice. I think it's down a bumpier British B road. SUVs are actually pretty good because the suspension keeps you in contact with the road at all times. And look at that, straight up to 60. Very nice. And yeah, coming over bumps like that, you've just got the travel for the car to actually like stay in contact with the road. Corners like that as well, you've got a little bump before quite a tight corner. Hot hatches will do a little jump there, whereas this doesn't. Okay, can we hit 60 before the corner? Let's go! That's 50. That's 60. Oh, just. Yeah, pretty quick car, really. Gear changes are fast enough, but they're not super snappy. That's where the S-tronic gearbox is good, is when you want to do some sporty driving. It's definitely quicker. But I have to say, getting a hustle on down here is pretty enjoyable. I can place the car where I want it. It's not doing anything that's going to scare me. It's just nice. Okay, last time for good measure. Yeah, the thickness of the steering wheel as well makes it pretty easy to gauge what's going on. A little bit of lean there. Right, can we get past this cyclist? Yes, we can. Look at that, mid-range punch in this thing is lovely. Quattro power coming out of corners. Oh yes, lovely stuff. Yeah, and the brakes hold up pretty well. It is a very nice car to get a move on in, and just generally a very easy car to drive and to live with. I think it really is a pretty good bargain at the minute. These hold their value exceptionally well. Because A, they're pretty reliable, especially this 2-litre engine, EA 888, till I die, love this engine, absolutely awesome. You know, if it feels pretty slow to you, you can just remap this thing. It's basically a Golf GTI engine anyway. Just give it a bit more power, 300 horsepower pretty easily. You're not going to lose much money on it, and you're going to have a very nice car, fundamentally. The only thing I will say is try and find one with Bang & Olufsen sound. That's a very worthy upgrade, as the standard system is fine, but if you want a proper auditory experience B&O sound in this generation of Audi Q5, absolutely insanely good. The subwoofer is brilliant. But yeah, I think it's just perfect, because you can drive it around London. The size is about right. You know, if you crash into stuff, you're not going to do much damage, because it's an absolute tank. This is back when Audi like really built stuff solidly. No rattles, squeaks. Yeah, just awesome. And no forced touchscreen. Still got clicky switches for everything. And oh, just listen to that. That is lovely. Lovely stuff. Anyway, as always, if you enjoy content like this, please give it a like, and why not subscribe, as not only can you see more content like this, you can see everything we have for sale, which, as usual, includes the car in this video, which is of course the Audi Q5 2-litre TFSI. It's a lovely car, this, honestly. There'll be a link down in the description for the car, and if you're not interested in an Audi Q5, or you want a BMW or a Mercedes, or maybe even something else, then there will be a generic link to the website down below as well. Anyway, my name is Tom, and you have been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.